Just ahead on this week's edition of Veterans Matters, Rob Betts from the Department of Veterans Affairs will be here to talk about the programs and services that are available at Veterans Outpatient Clinics, in particular those at the Coles County site. That's next, so stay tuned for Veterans Matters. Well, Rob, thanks for coming on Veterans Matters today. Talk to us a little bit about the Veterans Clinics. There's quite a few throughout the U.S., and we have one here in Coles County.
There are. A number of years ago, the Department of Veterans Affairs started looking at ways that they could bring health care into local communities, and they looked at doing outpatient clinics. And so there are approximately 780 community-based outpatient clinics throughout the United States, and Coles County received their clinic in 2009. I've been there since they opened, but we have one in Coles County in Mattoon. We have another clinic that's in Decatur, Illinois. We have one in Springfield. We have one in Peoria, Illinois, and then West Lafayette, Indiana. And they're all serviced by our main hospital, which is in Danville.
Okay, so what are some of the things that the clinic provides that that veterans, the services that they provide?
In our local clinics, what we did is we took as many of the services that veterans use extensively, and we tried to bring those to the clinics. And so in our outpatient clinics, we have primary care. We have 2 primary care doctors, and for each one of those primary care teams, we have an RN that's staffed for each team, and then we have an LPN that's a part of that team, what we call our PAC teams, which are patient-aligned care teams. But then we also provide mental health services. We have lab service in our clinics. We have social work. We have mental health. We have psychologists and psychiatry, dietitian, nutrition, and we just started not too long ago a home-based primary care. And then we also have our telehealth is a new program that we offer.
Okay, so you're serving veterans of all ages, I'm assuming, or is there a certain age group that tends to frequent?
There are larger age groups just based on the population demographics here in the area, but we serve all veterans. If you honorably serve, you can come in, you can fill out the application for services, and so it wouldn't matter if you were 18, 19, all the way up to, we even still have some World War II veterans that we like to, we enjoy having them come in.
I bet. So are you seeing more veterans using your clinic now that there's so many of them coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan?
We are. What we're finding is that the Department of Veterans Affairs is working with the Department of Defense, and they're going in and when these veterans are coming back and they're doing their demobilization, we have somebody there to inform them that Congress has enacted legislation that says that when they first come back, they're entitled to a number of years of free health care just by enrolling into the system, and they can come in and they can get, just as soon as they come off of active duty, they're eligible to come to the Department of Veterans Affairs, and we can start getting their primary care and everything taken care of immediately when they come back home.
So is that something that maybe people kind of forget about or don't take advantage of, do you think?
Absolutely. It's something that, unfortunately, there are a number of people who, because just the nature of how things are now, everybody is so busy and they're always on the go. Many of the veterans that are coming back are leaving the military service. They're coming back and they're going to college, and so they just don't feel like they have time for health care. Or then, of course, you got a lot of guys who they're employed in the community, and they just don't feel like they can take the time to make an appointment. And that's one of the goals of having the community-based outpatient clinics, is to help the veteran to be able to get that access as quickly as possible. And we've got several programs that we're currently working on and implementing. One of those is, it's a program called My Healthy Vet. And My Healthy Vet, what it is, it's a way for a veteran who comes into the VA, he can sign up for My Healthy Vet, and he's got quick access to all of his medical records. He can get them online himself. He doesn't have to wait until the clinic's open and go through the records department and things. He can print them out at home if he wants to. He can get his lab work, he can order his medications. He can even do, we call it secure messaging. If say a veteran he's attending school here and he's in between classes, he's got a smartphone and he's like, oh, I needed to ask my doctor about a particular issue. He can grab his smartphone, he can send a quick email, and within a short turnaround time, that provider or one of the members of his provider care team, a nurse, will respond to that message while he's on the go. So we're doing things to make the access to care a lot quicker.
That's really nice. I kind of wish the rest of us wish we could have that kind of access to our healthcare providers.
Yes, ma'am. It's an excellent option. I actually, whenever they first implemented it at our clinic, I was one of the first ones to sign up there. I wanted to make sure that if I was going to go out and promote it and tell people what a great program it was, I certainly wanted to be using it myself.
And I'm guessing that a veterans clinic is more adept or can take care of some of the special needs of veterans more so than just a typical medical practice. Not that, you know, our regular healthcare providers can't do that, but you're more set up for taking care of things like PTSD and things like that, things that are specialized to veterans. Is that
absolutely
correct?
And one of the questions that we get a lot of times is, you know, what services do we provide? Every service that you could get at a local general practice doctor's office. Every, you know, we provide all the services that you can get from mental health professionals. I think what makes us unique is when we're dealing with veterans is, number one, there are many veterans who are employed at the Department of Veterans Affairs, and so we have the aspect of being able to understand that side of things, but our medicine is specialized in such a way that we're focusing on not only the general needs of the population, because, you know, medical needs are the same for everybody. You know, maybe heart disease or diabetes or things like that. Those are all things that we treat, but in addition to that, you have veterans that are coming back with traumatic brain injury, or you have PTSD, things that you typically see when a veteran comes back from a combat zone. And we've spent a lot of time and put a lot of effort into making sure that we can provide for those needs along with their general healthcare needs.
Now, I don't know, that's why I'm asking this question. Can spouses and family members use the VA clinic, or is it only for the veteran?
Well, the interesting thing about it is that depending on there are some questions that there's no just straightforward
answer to.
Exactly, because each individual is different based on the criteria that's set forth by Congress. What the Department of Veterans Affairs goal is we take the laws that have been enacted by Congress, and we do everything that we can to make sure that we plug that veteran in with his individual needs and everything that he is qualified for, and sometimes which includes his spouse in the case of maybe a 100% service-connected disabled veteran and things like that. We help them to either get the health care that they're entitled to through the Department of Veterans Affairs, and if it's something that we don't provide for the spouse or the dependents, we get them in contact with other agencies who do help them with that, so that we're making sure that we take care of that whole veteran's family in some way or another. When we can provide health care for those individuals, and we have some that are eligible, we do that. And when we can't, we help them to find the areas, the avenues where they can.
Okay, so if someone has come back, they're back into civilian life, what do they need to do to get set up with the VA clinic and take advantage of all the services? Do they just walk in and say, here I am, or how does that work?
It's funny that you say that. Actually, yes, you can do it that way. You just walk into the office and you tell them that you'd like to sign up for health benefits, and you bring us a copy of your DD-214. We give you the application, which is a short application, and it just gives us some background information. And what that is, it's our way of plugging you into our criteria. We ask all the right questions to find out how we can fit you in to the eligibility requirements. Then we get your DD-214, which is your discharge paper, that tells us that your character of service and that you were honorably discharged. Once we do that, we input all of that into our system, and we do what we call our intake appointment, where you come in, you get to meet your doctor, and you get to meet your nurse. And as part of, I mentioned earlier, we have patient-aligned care teams. The way that the Department of Veterans Affairs is practicing medicine now is we want to give the veteran the opportunity to become a part of his health care, an active participant in it. And so you get to meet your whole primary care team, your LPN, your RN, and your doctor, and you develop that team relationship with them. So you do the first appointment, and you get to meet them. If you're already on medications, we convert those all to the VA prescriptions so that you start getting those through the VA, and it's a pretty quick, simple process.
So what do you do in your position at the clinic in Mattoon?
In my position, part of what I do is I manage the day-to-day operations of the facility to make sure that, when the veterans come in, we want it to be, and our clinic is second to none as far as the way that they've got it designed and the layout and everything. You come in, it's got a relaxed atmosphere, but I make sure that everything that is in place that should be there logistically and those types of things are there. And then the other side of what I do is I'm a patient advocate liaison. It's somebody who's on site if a veteran is having difficulty navigating the processes, as sometimes happens in any healthcare facility. You want somebody there that can help walk you through those processes, and so it's quite frankly, it's one of my favorite parts of the job, is because there's so much veteran and patient interaction there. I really enjoy that.
Good. Well, let's talk a little bit about the Supreme Court upheld the health care bill. What does that mean for veterans? Does that make it more complicated?
It doesn't make it more complicated.
Okay.
What it does is there are a lot of veterans who are eligible for care through the Department of Veterans Affairs who, for whatever reason, have chosen not to use the VA for their health care. Maybe they've always gone to a different doctor or whatever, but now with this new mandate that everyone is to have some type of health care coverage, what it does is the veterans that are out there who maybe are eligible for our services who have never used them before, they could sign up for their VA health care that they're entitled to, and that gives them the medical coverage that they need, and it helps them to conform to that letter of the law that says that they have to have coverage, because then they're able to come to the VA and they get their health care there.
Okay. We've been talking about the clinic. I'm not going to grill you too much about the VA hospital in Danville, but what do you get? If there's something that they can't handle at the clinic, they will transfer you up to the hospital? Is that how that works? Or can people just go to the big hospital in Danville?
You could choose to go to they have primary care teams in Danville as well. You could choose to go there, and I'll say that it's a great facility. They've done a whole lot of things. They've done a lot of updates there, and I'm a veteran who receives my care through the VA as well, and so I go there for some procedures, but a lot of our specialties are still there. And they have their primary care teams there. They've got some mental health there. So if a veteran chose to go to the hospital, they could certainly do that. But we also send our veterans there if they have certain things that they need to get taken care of, X-rays, specialty clinics. We do some minor surgeries there that they can come there and they can get those. But we keep in contact with them with a program that we have called telehealth, where your initial appointment, say if you're going to have a surgery, before, if you were going to have your pre-op clearance and then your post-op, that was 3 visits to our main facility. Now with telehealth, you can come in and there's a tech who works locally in Mattoon, our tech. She's an LPN, and she'll help you on the end where you're at the physical location. They get you signed on to a secure video conference with a specialist in Danville, and they do the initial part of the appointment before you actually come to the facility to have the surgery.
What a great time saver, especially if you're working, in Charleston, Mattoon, not having to take a day off of work to go up to Danville and back and forth.
It's an excellent time saver.
So that's you talked a little bit about technology. You're utilizing some new technology, this telehealth, and then also this access on smartphones. What other kinds of new things are you implementing at the VA?
Well, with the My Healthy Vet, you can, I use the example of smartphones because, that's what I carry, and that's where I get all my email and everything. But you can actually, it's good to know that you can be at your house, and if maybe it's the middle of the evening, middle of the night or something, you're like, oh, I needed to call in my medication. With My Healthy Vet, you don't have to do that anymore. You can log on to your computer at home, and you go into your secure site, and you order all of your medications. Or if you just recently had lab work and you want to find out what the results of that were, you can log on from home and you can check that out. But the VA as a whole is looking for new ways, and they continue to just implement new things to bring that access closer with everybody's busy schedule. And I mentioned earlier how a lot of times we're on the go, we're running. I have 3 children myself, and so I'm always doing something with my family. A lot of our veterans that are coming back now have been gone on deployment and they're back, and it seems like healthcare is just too hard to fit into their schedule, but it's important that they come in and they get that healthcare that they need, especially once they first come back. We want to get them into the system and get them on the right track with regard to their healthcare, so that they are able to spend more time with their family in the long run.
Right, and be able to, if there are issues and problems, which we've talked about on this show before, people coming back with traumatic brain injury, to diagnose those right
Absolutely.
away before they get worse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that we see a lot of times. We've implemented things like we have a veterans crisis line. You know, if a patient is having suicidal ideations, if they're in trouble or something, we do a lot of advertising. We've done public service announcements, but we actually, and I may have one on me. I don't know if a lot of times I'll carry the card. Yeah, I've actually got, we've actually got a little card that, let's see if I have one. I don't have one on here, but we carry these cards, and they actually give the phone number. We give those to the veterans, or we have like these stress balls, and it gives the number for the veterans to call that number, let them know, hey, there's somebody that wants to talk to you about this. There's somebody that's going to be here to help you. We want to get you going on the right track, and we understand you're not the only one that's facing these difficult issues, and we're gonna be there for you 24/7. There's always somebody that's going to be there to help you.
What about for our older veterans who might not be as tech savvy? They might be sitting there, well, I don't even have a cell phone, or don't use one, or I don't log on. You're still, they're still not out of the loop.
They'll be happy to know that there is no veteran left behind.
That's good.
We take care of them as well. You can still, we actually do the regular mail process. You can, when you get your prescriptions, you can mail in that prescription. You get those refilled. You can come in and see your doctor. You can call them on the telephone. You can dial in your prescriptions by phone. And what we found, though, is we've been pleasantly surprised that a lot of those older veterans that you think, well, maybe they won't utilize these services, are real quick to use them because they have grandkids that the only time that they, my grandmother is my friend on Facebook, and that's, a few years ago you wouldn't have thought about something like that.
So they're using the technology just like younger people.
Yeah, and when they're not, we make sure that we're taking care of them as well. Yes, ma'am.
That's great. And it has to be fun, as you said, to have some of those older veterans come in. I would imagine sometimes for some of them, just coming into the clinic is just maybe a little bit of a social aspect too, to visit with other veterans, or just
it is
reconnect.
We've got a number of volunteers who come in every day. We work with the RSVP program, which I'm sure you're familiar with here locally, but also with the American Legion Auxiliary and the VFW, the ladies from the VFW, and we have volunteers that come in every day. If you come into the clinic in Mattoon or one of our other clinics, there's somebody there to greet you when you come in, to just converse with you. Maybe while you're in your appointment, if your wife doesn't go back or your husband doesn't go back because you're the veteran that's being seen that day, there's someone that's in there to just kind of hang out with you a little bit. We've actually got, we provide popcorn for our veterans, we've got coffee. And so we've got a room set up in the front that's kind of a social area where they're able to, while they're there for their appointment, they get some of that social interaction too. We've even got a lending library that we have there, and they come in, they grab a book and bring it back if you want, or loan it to a friend, and it's just something else so we can, number one, say thank you to the vets, that the people that have served our country, but just to let them know that we want to take care of them in their entirety. We're not just concerned about their heart health, we're also concerned about their mental health needs. We want to make sure they're getting those social interactions and things like that. Yes,
you sound like you have a great job, and you do a really good job at it.
I
I
have a wonderful job. Working for the Department of Veterans Affairs, I didn't have the privilege of retiring in the military. It gives me an opportunity to stay connected with other veterans and just to be a part of that whole process. Some of the greatest people that I've met are the veterans that come in and they have some kind of issue that they're dealing with. We sit down and we work through it. By the time they leave, you've developed this rapport that they start recognizing you when you go to the grocery store and things like that, and you stop but it's great, especially not being from here originally and moving up here to work for the Department of Veterans Affairs. You don't necessarily know people everywhere you go, but now I've got this network of people that I've become friends with in and out of the VA, and people that I'm a member of the American Legion and stuff, and so it's a nice family atmosphere.
So the clinic is located in Mattoon, but you're probably drawing people from all over the area?
Typically for the Mattoon Clinic, there are approximately 12,000 veterans in the 6 counties, Coles County and the surrounding counties. There's approximately 12,000 veterans, and that's generally would be considered the population where we draw from. We certainly wouldn't turn away anybody who was further than that. And we have some people that drive further than that, but within the 6 counties surrounding Coles, that general area is where most of our veterans come. North of there would be Springfield and Decatur, and they have that same kind of catchment area, and then Peoria does the same thing, West Lafayette, Indiana. And so in each area you have these groups of individuals where they'll come from all of those local counties, and that's the quick drive for them. They're able to come there to get care.
That is nice. I'll ask you real quick, what are the hours of the Mattoon Clinic?
We are there from 7:45 to 4:15 Monday through Friday. And we're federal holidays, we're closed, but any other time you'd be able to come through there Monday through Friday and we'd be there. So.
All right. Stop in and see Rob Betts and the rest of the people at the VA clinic. Thank you for joining us and on Veterans Matters. I'm sure we will have you on again, or some other people from the clinic. You're doing great service for our veterans, and they thank you, I'm sure.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Great. If you have questions or comments about our show, please email them to the address on the screen or give us a call during regular business hours at 581-5956. Thanks for watching this edition of Veterans Matters.
We opened in 2009, and so it's kind of you can obviously tell by looking around here, it's relatively new. But some of the services that we talk about, our social worker, which she's in with somebody right now. And then we have nutrition, and our dietitian is in this office. And down this hallway, we do all of our mental health. We try to keep our specialty clinics all together, and then our primary care, where they see their general practitioner and stuff, is all down the other end. This is a space that we actually use this as one of our for telemental health. This can actually dial in. This is one of the smaller units. We can actually take that unit, we bring the veteran in here, and they can meet with one of the mental health professionals at another facility, and you just dial in. It's just, it's a 7-digit phone number, but you would just dial in, and then a lot of these veterans, if they were going to to see our specialists in Danville, that's 180 miles round trip from Mattoon. And so for them to cut down that travel cost, that 180 miles, and the convenience of, before they might have to take a whole day off of work, now they just have to take off a half an hour. They come by here, maybe they come by on their lunch break and they do their appointment. They go right back to work, and it doesn't cost them anything to get their health care. And a lot of times, even maybe if they don't have to pay for the health care itself, it's cost prohibitive because they have to take off work to get to the appointments. So we're eliminating that cost for them. Just going to look at the lab. This is our lab where they actually spin down all the labs and stuff in here. Our lab tech brings the labs back here. But this is the draw room when the veterans come in. This is right off of our main lobby. We just passed it a while ago. When the veterans come in, they'll ring a bell, so wherever she's at, there's a doorbell in here. And they come through this door, and she draws their blood in here, and then we actually take it in there and they do all their spin downs and everything, and then they have it sent to Danville where they finish doing the analyzation on it. Typically the next day they can get the results of their labs, which is really quick. And so what we do is we try to have the veterans get their lab work done. Then a couple of days later we have them make an appointment with their primary care physician, and they can go over all that lab work, see if there's anything they need to work on. This is one of the, actually I'll show you another exam space too. This would be an exam space if a patient were to come in and perhaps he was going to be transported by ambulance. This is a room where we have our EKG and our oxygen and things like that. But this would be the kind of room if they came in and they presented and they had some sort of difficulties that was going to cause them to need to be transported. We would typically handle that in here. It's kind of our quick room that we would, get them seen in. This is actually our women's health space. We do our own women's health here in the facility. We've got a women's health care provider, but this room would be when the patient came in, they'd check in up front. Their nurse would see them across the hall, and they would come in here and they would have their women's health exams in this room.